Over the years, I've made it a pretty common yet interesting rule for my channel to never talk about Sonic or any of the games for that matter. It could be because of how I perceived the fandom back in the day, it could be because of how many bad games there are in the series. But I think the biggest one in my eyes was because it wasn't as interesting as something like the games I grew up playing. I mean, it makes sense. The only real Sonic game I ever played when I was a wee lad was Sonic Heroes, and even then I couldn't get past Rail Canyon for some reason. And with the current internet space, you either love it, don't care for it, or think it's the second coming of Satan. And I don't know why, I really do not care for Sonic for some reason. That was until I played Sonic Racing Crossworlds, and you know what? I get it. I get where people are coming from. This is pretty good. I like it. Despite the experiences I described so far, there are other Sonic games I played as well. Sonic CD, Sonic 2, Sonic Mania, Sonic... I think I've only ever played the 2D games for real. That's a shame. I also got this @games plug and play, which I only cared for the Sonic games, not even like the 40 shovelware games and the other games on the console. You know why? Because I was a young wee lad and I knew who Sonic was and I was into Sonic.exe at the time. Can you really blame me? I was 11. I was in middle school. I was in 6th grade. Can you blame me? But no. The purpose of this video is to do two things. To break away from the worries of talking about Sonic on this channel and essentially review other Sonic games here, maybe like Sonic Adventure 2, maybe, who knows. But also answer the question, would I want to play another Sonic game? And to do that, I'm going to be taking a look at the original Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Genesis. I know there's a lot of tension with it, but hear me out. Starting from the beginning may not be so bad when you think about it. So with that said, hey, it's Pigeon, and today we'll be taking a look at the original Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Genesis. That's literally what I just said a minute ago, but let's get into it.
This is a Sonic the Hedgehog from Sega Genesis. Look at these radical colors, huh?
Wow, Sonic's fast, too.
No, over here.
I like Genesis, and it costs a lot less.
Wait, kid, that game
I'll
there.
take Sonic and Genesis.
Before the idea of Sonic the Hedgehog was ever conceived, Sega primarily focused on developing arcade games and their 8-bit console, the Sega Master System. It wouldn't be until 1989 when the US would be graced with what is arguably their most popular console, the Sega Genesis. Also called the Mega Drive in other regions, but that's besides the point. Despite releasing the Genesis in '89, it wouldn't be until 1991 when Sega hit it big with a certain blue hedgehog, though. There's a lot to talk about before we get to that point, so you might as well get comfy for this next part. In part with making a character that acts as a sort of mascot for Sega, the team went ahead and started designing concepts for this mascot. Though, back then, the company's current mascot was Alex Kidd, and personally, I don't really care about the games he's in. Have you played Alex Kidd in the Enchanted Castle? That's not even Alex Kidd, that's Alexander Adolescent! Ugh! I don't know, maybe it was the right idea to get rid of Alex Kidd as the mascot. I don't know, I don't think he's really that appealing. It wouldn't be until one developer by the name of Naoto Oshima designed a funny-looking critter which gave us Sonic the Hedgehog. Doing research on the development of this game led me down a bit of a rabbit hole. Yes, we know that during the development, Sonic was meant to compete with Mario in the market, but in a way, there's a lot more to the development of this game than I would have ever seen before. Mostly because it's the first in the series and they were just toying around with ideas for a Sonic game. Some of my favorites include the fact that Sonic was meant to have an actual human girlfriend. There's some art showing Sonic and his old friends playing in a band, this concept art which features some old designs for certain characters, and by far my favorite of the bunch, this design of Robotnik for when the idea of him being a protagonist was still a concept. I don't know, I guess the early concept art for him is just really fun looking as opposed to what we got. I like both designs, but this specific concept is just really whimsical and I love it so much. I don't know how else to describe it, very good concept art. Despite that, the game would go through a whole slew of other concepts and such until June 23rd, 1991, when the game would finally release in America. eventually becoming the best-selling Genesis game and acting as sort of a power player for the Genesis, getting praise from critics and players alike, selling over 15 million copies overall. That's amazing, actually, for a Genesis game. Have you seen the sales numbers for those games? Wowee. Down the line, Sonic 1 would also be ported to other consoles such as the Game Boy Advance, Sega Saturn via the Sonic Jam Collection, and more recently, Sonic Origins. But for this video, I'm only going to be taking a look at the original Sonic the Hedgehog, the way it was meant to be. So with all that said, let's just jump straight into it. We start the game and are given the title screen, which shows Sonic waving his finger at us like, you didn't say the magic word, But that's not what you're here for. You're looking at this smug hedgehog's eyes and wondering, what's going on behind them? And it's simple. Sonic resides on South Island. One day, a man by the name of Dr. Robotnik comes over and starts shoving the animals of the island into robots for his own devices. Probably trying to take over South Island, you know? Casual evil scientist stuff. But yeah, it's up to Sonic to stop Robotnik's plans and save South Island. Very basic stuff, but then again, it is the first game in the series, and it was trying to establish a basic concept, so can't really fault anyone on that. Before talking about the actual gameplay of this game, I want to talk about the aesthetic, and oh my god, I love how colorful the graphics are in this game. I think Sonic's final design is also appealing as well. I like the simple design, like cartoony and stuff like that. Really adds to Sonic's character, being smug and all that. The music, also nice sounding. I really like how it sounds, especially Starlight Zone. It's one of my favorites from the game. It reminds me of driving down a city at night, and I love that so much. The rest of the soundtrack is also super nice sounding, thanks to the help of Masato Nakamaru of Dreams Come True, who was brought on by Sega to compose for the game. Personally, the music is definitely the best aspect of the game's aesthetics. Not a top 5, but definitely up there. As for the game itself, the game is a platformer, and like any game of that genre, follows the main character running and jumping to the goal. The key difference with Sonic in this game is that if you hold down while in motion, Sonic will actually become a ball and destroy anything in his path. Walls, enemies, you name it, he'll destroy that. One other thing about the gameplay is how Sonic functions. In this game, Sonic can collect rings, as any other platformer would have a collectible like that. Collecting 100 of them nabs you an extra life. But one other function that rings have is that when Sonic gets hit, all the rings drop out of him. So Sonic doesn't necessarily die when you have rings on you. Instead, he just gets hurt. Having no rings and getting hit, however, will cause you to lose a life. Basically, what that means is that you're donezo for the time being. It's a super unique way of doing things with life systems, and I feel that the gameplay itself and how Sonic functions is quite a neat idea. What I can't say the same for is the set pieces with the levels. The game is split into 6 different zones: Green Hill, Marble, Spring Yard, Labyrinth, Starlight, and Scrap Brain Zone, all having 3 different acts in total. What I've noticed, however, is that most of the set pieces in certain zones are reused, and yeah, it was to quicken the development time, and I get that, but also, okay, I guess, no other comments. At the end of each zone, you'll have to face off against the main bad guy of the game, Dr. Robotnik, alternatively named Eggman. See, it's funny because he's shaped like an egg and is named Eggman. But yeah, the fights are relatively simple. Aside from the fight in Labyrinth Zone, because Jesus H. Christ, was this really necessary? The boss fights mainly consist of Eggman flying around in his machine trying to get Sonic in various different ways. One time he'll have a machine that swings a ball around, and another time he'll have a machine that destroys the floor beneath Sonic. Other times it'll be him pussying out and escaping a flooding cave, which, Godspeed if you even try to get to him. Like I said, the bosses are the simplest thing here, and the same goes for the final boss itself. Going into the final boss, epic music starts playing, and then the final boss mainly consists of Eggman attempting to crush Sonic and shooting out plasma balls in order to try and get him. Hit him a few times and Eggman will escape and the game is officially over. Although, not exactly yet. While the game can be easier said than done in an hour or two, Collecting the Chaos Emeralds are required to get the good ending of the game. Now, what are the Chaos Emeralds? In future games, they grant Sonic powers, but in this game, they're mainly used as a way to get the good ending of the game. But how do you get the Chaos Emeralds? Throughout the game are special zones, which involve Sonic maneuvering around labyrinths with very difficult controls to boast. Besides that, in order to access these zones anyway, you'll need to collect 50 rings and hop into a giant portal that's shaped like a giant ring. After that, you'll have to navigate through these labyrinths, eventually coming across the Chaos Emerald of that specific special zone. The only problem is that the controls are super wonky, but that's the cost of wanting to get the good ending, I guess. Oh well. Other than that, there's not really much else I could say about Sonic. There's a stage select, but I want to play the game through and through before diving into that specific screen. Not really much to say other than that's a screen that takes you to certain levels. That's all I can really say. Sonic the Hedgehog is a game that exists. Is it good? Nah, it's alright, but it's not bad in the slightest. I just wish it was better, honestly. There's some moments in the game that make me groan, such as this moment in Labyrinth Zone, but overall, it's really nothing to write home about, honestly. I guess my last message with this game was that my time with Sonic was definitely not the best, but hey, I'm sure that later games fix these issues, right? I mean, on the bright side, at least I wasn't playing the re-release for the Game Boy Advance. Am I right, y'all? And that was Sonic the Hedgehog, a game that is both aged like wine and milk, for better or for worse. In my humble opinion, I think the game itself is a-okay with me. It's definitely aged, but it's okay in some way. Now with that said, what now?